Hi, welcome to Hi, welcome to CCTV Channel 17 live at 525, the Preservation Burlington Show. Preservation Burlington is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and our mission is to preserve and protect the historic architecture and livability of Burlington through education and advocacy.
Good one, Ron.
The bottom part of that is for when we're done with the show. Okay. I need to constantly remember that. So thanks everybody for joining us again this month. It's again me and Lisa, and we've got a guest who I'm trying to figure out how to introduce him. So we have Will Gansel with us, who's a graduate student. You graduate this spring. Don't you have one more class to take, or are you done?
I'm done in December. This is my final semester.
This December, nice. All right, yeah. So, and just full disclosure, I know Will because he's been helping me out in the shop for 2 years now, almost.
Yeah, yeah, a little over.
And you neglected to say where he's a graduate student.
You see, there's only one graduate student in my mind. That's the historic preservation program at UVM.
There you go.
Which is a terrific program. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I didn't see you all summer because you were off doing fancy graduate student stuff, which is what we'll talk about. How did you like the program sitting next to an alum?
I think the program's absolutely fantastic. Really, like you said, I started working with you about a year beforehand, and I had grown up with a very strong interest in old houses. I grew up doing a bunch of carpentry work and everything around the house, but really having that academic background has been really fantastic, and more than that too, being introduced to so many people throughout Vermont. Really, I mean, I intend to stay here long term, and knowing you guys and Bob and Tom Visser also in the program, and that's what struck me too, is just the generosity and really the real care that people affiliated with preservation in Vermont have for the state and for others. It's really been a really awesome experience.
Yeah, there's so many resources here, and so many different levels of a condition, but you're right, everybody just absolutely loves them and is so willing to share their stories, whether or not you can save them all, repair them all, but the passion is really there.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, Will and I both came from New York, and coming here from New York, where at least where I was from, there's very little appreciation for what is existing from, prior decades and centuries, and you come here in Vermont, and because for a number of reasons, socio-political and every other one, so much of our infrastructure from that turn of the century is still evident and available and being utilized,
Yeah, and it's a big part of our tourism as well.
Right, yeah. And there's appreciation for it. So I know that I came to Vermont and I was like, I had to focus my work in New York City because that's where the old buildings were and that's where the stuff I was interested in here. I came here and everybody is interested in somehow or another reutilizing, saving their buildings. And the preservation community is small and tight-knit. I know everybody.
Yeah, it's super small and super awesome. It's very strong.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're here to, maybe we should just go get through our updates and things, and then we can dive into the exciting stuff.
Right. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up. Everybody's going to be looking out for the Sentinel. It just came out, and in it is a super cool new Preservation Burlington, just like the one in the back, but with the tag saying 25 years. Sticker. What did I call it?
Nothing.
Oh.
You just said a super cool
Preservation Burlington thing that you can stick on your coffee mug, your car, 25 years. And it's in the new newsletter, which is coming out, which updates everybody on everything. Homes tour, Lakeview Cemetery tour is coming up.
Yes, we are not doing it in costume this year, but we are doing it. We've got some fabulous partners doing it with us as well this year too, right?
We do. It's Friends of Lakeview Cemetery. Others or them?
I can't remember.
Well, they're
but
really
we have
involved.
Yes,
so
we have a couple of partners.
It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of stuff going on there. I know that they're working to find contractors to restore the main building and then also to do the paint work on the chapel. Green marker again, new board members, President's
Picture
Corner.
of you. Yep.
So
good stuff.
Anyway, that's it, right? I mean,
our
meeting was a recap because we had Art Hop. A bunch of tours there. Everything was really popular.
And we're trucking along with the the fight to save Immaculate Conception.
Yep.
And
We had bad news and good news.
bad news and good news, and
then
we're still
hopeful
fundraising. We're
stuff.
still looking for folks to
Yeah.
help us out to continue the fight.
Anybody
So,
that
or
loves
advocacy
and is
for it.
interested in modernist architecture, locally famous modernist architecture.
Which you are as well, right? You're launching into some
I am.
modernist things.
A little bit, yeah. That's really, I've been rehired into the fall to continue this project, and that's really all I have left is the modernist stuff. So buildings like Marsh Life Science and Rowell, stuff that honestly, on a personal level, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I've gained a real appreciation for modern architecture. Absolutely.
You can't help gaining an appreciation
Absolutely.
by sitting next to Devin Coleman.
Yes, definitely. And on the topic of generosity and generous people, Devin, fantastic. I've only recently met him over the summer, but still, he's a great guy. Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. So let's maybe jump to the beginning of your project rather than the end part.
One more thing I just wanted to mention that popped in my head. The other thing we have coming up, because you brought up the cathedral, in that area and the urban renewal project that we're working on with Champlain College, that's chugging along. I think there's links to it on our website where people can go, because they have not a Substack, they have the music one. Anyway,
Spotify?
There's a website that is evading me right now, but there's the movie,
Okay.
a musical
We're
component,
playing Pictionary.
and a photographic gallery space.
Okay.
That's all going to be set up. Champlain College is doing that. That's for November.
Okay.
And our guest next month is going to be Lily, the student that's putting that all together and doing an
Perfect.
amazing job.
So we'll get our ducks in a row and our information, and we'll
So
be able
that
to.
I don't stammer as
yes,
much.
Yes, and so I can actually sound like I know what I'm talking about, which I don't right now.
Right. So back to your...
Back to your project. So I really don't know much about this, so I'm really looking forward to you telling us. All I know that it was some gargantuan documentation project of architectural elements and finishes at UVM.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So early in the semester, Bob had approached, excuse me, Bob had approached me and my friend Josie, who's also in the program, about the possibility of completing an internship in conjunction with the Historic Preservation Department, the Vermont Department of Historic Preservation, and I believe it's the Campus Planning Department. And so the gist of it was really streamlining Act 250 review. Anytime, as it was explained to me, anytime UVM wants to alter, significant interior character-defining features, pursuant to Act 250, they have to go through a review process with the state, and that's led to some disagreements. I think most notably was probably the replacement of the columns for Ira Allen a couple of years back. So naturally, they've been looking to streamline that process because time is money, and you have a limited project budget, and you can only do so much.
When Act 250 kicks in, that adds delays, and delays are money. Yeah.
Exactly. So really looking at it from that angle, streamlining that process is very important, to the continued viability of these buildings, really. And also, too, I think that a lot of it was also trying to develop kind of a comprehensive body of documentation. It's like any other large institution. You have, maintenance crews who might not necessarily be trained in the most historically sensitive practices.
Right.
And so forming that body of documentation and, using this as a tool to then help the maintenance crews, make more historically informed decisions about appropriate materials and such was really a very strong
Or
priority.
even identifying what is historic and what
Exactly.
isn't in the first place. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. So how many buildings did you get to document?
I documented 14 buildings total, and I have 4 currently in progress. So, like I had mentioned, I've been rehired through the end of the semester to continue this work. So I'm still working on those.
Yeah. You mentioned you had some crazy amount of data to me earlier.
It's quite a bit. As it stands right now, it's a little over 500 pages. It's kind of a beast, to tell you the truth. My computer's been straining under the weight of all of it. So,
So how does that, taking all that data, that gets stored or documented somewhere? So this is not a printed out thing. This will be in UVM's files per building. What sort of?
SHPOs, I'm assuming too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. So everybody's going to have copies of everything and stored. I'm just curious because at Shelburne Museum we have 66 buildings, 37 of them
Right.
historic. And we have all kinds of several different ways to plug all the information into different places so people can find it on OneNote, they can find it in files by building name, and then of course the files that get created every time somebody does something is a crazy mishmash over here, you know. So how is this information going to be available to the people at UVM? Let's leave the state out of it.
Yeah, as I understand it, it'll be an internal document through the UVM planning department. I'm not really too sure what form that'll take, whether that'll be online or in an actual bound volume. And then I know Devin briefly mentioned the possibility of including some of it as a supplemental documentation for National Register inclusion. So that I would guess would be available through the state's online resource center. But again, I'm not entirely sure on that.
Yeah, so it's really not designed to be public information. It's really designed to be
really supposed to be internal.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So what were you looking for specifically?
So, you know, in the field we talk about character-defining feature. What gives a space its own particular feeling? And so going around and looking at baseboards, cornices, door trim, really you name it. You know, one of the things that was most interesting was looking at the variety of decorative ironwork. Really wasn't expecting to see so much, especially in Williams Hall. And there was one particular room that was really beautifully preserved, and it was really cool to be in, because I mean so much of Williams has been, you know, covered in 19 layers of paint and you know the replacement floors and everything, but so to walk in that space and have it be so original was really something.
And what kind of decorative ironwork, what are we talking about?
All types. I mean wrought iron, you know, so a lot of like Art Nouveau stuff, just really interesting details. Yeah, I mean a lot of like door hinges and stuff like that too. Yeah, just really fantastic
Get a lot of pictures?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know what I'm doing here.
No.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this.
Click off that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There we go.
Okay, is this the alumni house?
This is the alumni house. So this is, just to pull up some quick pictures, this is the entry hall. And so, you know, I believe the first column, because they gave us a sheet to fill out, and so we go through and do columns, doors, cornices, baseboards, and I would fill out one of these sheets for every space. And honestly, it was very nice to have it laid out like that.
That's helpful. So you did interior and exterior?
Just interior.
Just interior?
Just interior.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, number one was columns, and I picked the Alumni House for this evening because it's really fantastic craftsmanship. Everything in all of the carvings that you see in the building were executed by a carver named Albert Wittekind, who I didn't know, but apprenticed with the Norcross brothers, who were H.H. Richardson and McKim and White's preferred contractor.
Oh, wow.
So there's a real strong lineage of craftsmanship there. It's just absolutely fantastic to look at.
Glorious.
They moved his house from Winooski to Burlington. It's a Gothic revival.
Really?
And yeah. I know all this because we did a bunch of research, because
Okay.
we did the restoration of the exterior carvings on the alumni house.
Right.
And Albert Wittekind came up a lot. And we started and we documented the other buildings he's worked on all over the place.
Right.
He moved here from Brooklyn, I think.
That sounds right.
Brooklyn to Winooski, and then he worked all over UVM's campus and stuff.
Yeah, I think he also did the carvings for, I want to, it's Big Queen Anne on Pearl Street. It might be 371 Pearl.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
it's that one. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. I noticed in that picture you were just showing the Swanton marble on the
Yes.
fireplace surround.
Yes, absolutely. So
Really weird, and I've seen it in Swanton.
What
and-
makes it weird?
Well,
To
it's
somebody
just-
who's never seen it.
Well, if you think of marble, you think of, you know, Barry marble, white with like veining in it and stuff, or occasionally the really high style Victorian marble, which was often marbleized on top of marble to make it fancier looking. But that marble looks like this, like almost like red stone with white chunks in it and some veining. And it's interesting because it's also, sorry, I'm off on a
No, go for
tangent.
it. No.
It's really neat. I had never seen it before. I was up at the Swanton Library, and they have a whole bunch of it, and their whole front entrance is made of that. I'm like, that's so cool. It's marble. And they're like, oh, it's Swanton marble. So now I've run into it in other places,
And now you know what it is.
and now I know what it is. And ironically, so it's a very similar red stone kind of marble mixture is in rice lumber as their countertops.
Oh, interesting.
Because when they demolished and they were excavating all that stuff, there was so much of it, they had it polished. They hate it because it splits all the time when you're polishing it. So.
Oh, well.
Anyway,
Yeah.
boring
The
anecdote
price- the
alert.
price-
Problems to have, you know.
exactly.
Yeah.
What other pictures do you have to show us?
So we have another view of one of the columns, another blurry view of one of the columns,
There you
several
go, that was
blurry
better.
views. And yeah, so really, I mean, looking around, one of the things that I love the most about this space, and really the Alumni House in general, is the clear sense of hierarchy that's developed in terms of spaces. This paneling rises to, I want to say, was about 70 inches or so above the floor. And then when you went upstairs, the panel design was very similar. The moldings were very similar, but everything was just very slightly simplified. I don't know if I'll bring up a picture, but
What year are we talking about here, too?
I
for our
believe this
viewers?
was 1891. I believe the house was built. And yeah, I mean, looking at just the sheer variety of woodwork, I think so. The main hall is done in oak. The music room and library were both done in cherry, and then the dining room is done in mahogany. And just, I mean, just in terms of sheer craftsmanship, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You know, just the very, very
Wow.
delicate bead and reel, you know, and the really highly figured oak is just fantastic.
So were there records to help you identify the wood, or did you take samples, or was it just visible? what it
Really
was?
visible. I mean, especially for oak. Oak is so distinctive to look at. You know, but outside of that, I relied somewhat on the National Register nominations. Although, I mean, for really the early ones, the 60s, 70s, they're really kind of sparse.
Yeah.
So there's just not much to work with in there. But honestly, working with you, Ron, that's really what taught me to identify this stuff. You know, I mean, I remember, I think it was some of the trim from Perry Hall that you had up there, and that was mahogany. And then, you know, so just really kind of developing that hands-on feel for it is really, really what enabled me to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Who owned the house? Did you get into the history of the house at all?
Oh, geez. Yes, I have it on the sheet. That's
That will be the
my name is
sequel.
escaping me at the moment. But yeah.
I'm supposed to know it also, and I couldn't remember. That's why I
Right, right.
Yeah.
threw you under the bus.
Edward Wells. That's it. The
Edward Wells.
Wells.
That's right.
Yes.
It was the drug money.
the drug money. No, and that big Second Empire on the corner, that was his brother's house.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a celery mixture.
Yeah, something like
somebody's
that.
celery something. They bought the patent from this small family. And
Yeah,
then
it was all kinds of fun tinctures
added,
and
opium to it, and then
yes.
sold it as a cure-all for everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then it was right around 19. When did the FDA started in the early 1900s? Not 1920. I think it was the teens, or maybe even 1906. But it was probably Teddy Roosevelt. But that's when they started cracking down on cocaine and Coca-Cola, opium, and all these.
It's amazing what was
Elixirs.
just available to everybody.
Yeah,
right?
it was a heyday. It shut down a lot of businesses.
Yes, yes. Yeah. What, tell us about, other than the ironwork, and I don't know if you have any pictures of any of that, but what other surprising things came out of this project, or did you not expect? Or
Honestly, I would say the sheer variety of things. You know, when I think about it, really, UVM's campus is a very, very interesting microcosm of the broader preservation world. In terms of architectural styles, I mean, I could name an example of almost every academic architectural style in the United States that can be found on UVM's campus. So in terms of honing my ability to parse through those distinctions and see the commonalities, but also what makes them different, and also distinctive elements and construction techniques from each period. That was really one thing that I wasn't expecting. The degree to which it would hone my eye for that sort of thing.
And did you find that there was a preponderance of high style versus vernacular, or a good balance, or?
Honestly, it was a very, very even split. You know, as for a building like the Alumni House, obviously, I mean, that's a very, very high style building.
Right.
Grassmount was very similar. You know, but for every Alumni House in Grassmount, there's also, the Jacobs House, which is just a very, very simple, eaves front Greek Revival house that, to most outward appearances wouldn't contain a whole lot there. But it's really, really interesting to be able to look through and to see what distinguishes, a Greek Revival molding from a classical revival, or, Queen Anne or something along those lines. It's really, really interesting work for sure.
What people were doing, and also maybe the interior. So you mentioned earlier, the hierarchy of floors.
Right.
How intricate and how detailed the first floors show. Front to back of the house, and higher up you go, less and less. But it's always interesting to me to see what. And also, I think we were lucky probably in the Burlington area because of the lumber industry. You know, we weren't the fancy town, we were a lumber town. But all the mills, there's just so much distinctive moldings in even vernacular architecture.
We had a lot of craftsmen,
homes.
a lot of
Yeah.
crafts. Yeah. So what is the period that you covered?
Everything from 1804, when Grassmount was built, to
The ones you haven't done yet.
the ones I haven't done yet. No, but in terms of what I covered, I think the latest was 1921. I did Ira Allen, so that was built in 1921 to 25, I
So
believe.
a real range.
Real range,
Yeah.
real range in terms of age and style. I mean, just fantastic, really.
So you mentioned modernists coming up. What would that be?
Marsh Life Science, the ones that are occurring to me immediately. Marsh Life Science, Rowell is another one.
Where is that one?
It's kind of, if you go
Spell it.
Rowell. So
Okay.
if you know where the library is, right in the middle, you go up the hill a little bit towards like the medical center side, and it's that first one there. I think I believe it shares access with Given, and all the rest of the medical center buildings. They're all kind of connected down there.
Yeah, it's confusing in there for
really
us lay people who didn't.
Well, that was one of the best things about my undergrad when I figured out how to get from the very top of campus up by Jeffords all the way down to Central Campus by staying inside. That was a highlight.
Staying inside. That's so funny. Yeah. So, what's the age of either one of those buildings? So it's 50 years or older?
50 years. I want to say Rowell's the more recent. Marsh was built in 63 or 64, and Rowell was maybe 67, somewhere in that range. Rowell was really cool, though. Like I said, I don't know if it's my favorite style necessarily, but I have gained a real appreciation for modern architecture and everything that goes into it. Whereas most people look at it and say, "Oh, there's not much there." Now I can really see what's there, and that's been a real nice paradigm shift to have.
Yeah, that's really the crux of all of this, right? Whether it's the cathedral that we're talking about, or old buildings, or something like Converse Hall, where you can see, it's really visual what is historic and what isn't. When you finally understand how things were put together, what the thinking was, what went behind it, the architectural decisions that they made, the design decisions, then it's like, it makes so much sense. But to look at a building like, it's just a slab of concrete and glass.
Well, now you're talking brutalist, but the thing that makes them all interesting to me, everybody thinks I just love Queen Anne Victorians, which I like them, but modernist, brutalist architecture, it's a timeline. It's a timeline of our built environment and the decisions, products, and
tastes and
tastes. But what was available? So the thing about modern architecture, you look at it and you go, oh, big windows, cheap materials, flat roofs, cheap. But it was efficient. It was quick. It was post-war, and it was, and they took those constraints and made interesting buildings. That's what I love. It's like, and then these architects, and it doesn't have to be the high-style modernist stuff. We have lots of examples. We had a home store about that. Specifically for over in DeForest. I think there's a bunch of them, and they're just neat.
Yeah, they are. And it presents a really interesting dilemma for preservationists too, because a lot of them weren't built to last, right? They weren't built for longevity, and here we are trying to save them. So it gives us a really...
Formica's historic now,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
I think originally originated in Texas somewhere, and the guy that invented its house is now trying to maintain it and restore it.
Yeah, all the veneers and the faux finishes, all of it. So.
Oh, you mentioned that, and where did I see that? Was something you typed up or sent to us about the faux finishes, faux painting, faux bois?
So really, the most distinctive example that I found is it's on the South William Street entrance to Jacob's house, which is currently occupied by CAPS, so Counseling and Psychiatry Services. And as far as I can tell, it's one area on the newel post and continuing up to the second floor, but it's the most gorgeous, tiger striped finish. I wish I could pull up a picture. I would have to dig through everything to find it. But it's really, really cool. And also too, looking in Grassmount, I had never known really, because it's occupied by the UVM Foundation, so I wouldn't have really had any need to go over there.
Yeah.
But I had no idea, but it's according to most sources, one of the most intact and significant examples of historic interior decorative painting in the United States. There were two separate periods. I think the earlier was 1820 and the later was 1840. And the earlier period, the home was owned by a sea captain, I believe. And so he brought several artisans in from Italy who spent the better part of 2 years going through and doing decorative painting on every wall. Fast forward 30 years, the house has changed hands several times, and the new lady of the house hates it. It's disgusting, she wants it covered and wants it gone. Paints over all of it and does a second layer of painting over top. That gets covered when it's purchased by the university in 1895 and remains hidden until they embark on a campaign to restore it in the 80s. And Kathy Keller from the UVM Foundation was fantastic. She brought me around and she showed me several examples of the decoration, but also a real treasure trove of documents from that period. They had contracted with a Boston architectural firm, I forget the exact name, and architectural conservation, but really just fantastic literature to dive through. I mean, I love technical documentation and manuals and all that sort of thing, so it's right up my alley.
All right, it makes me want to go see it. Are these buildings open to people?
For the most part, yeah. I started to, and that's the other thing. That's what was nice about this too, was that it taught me how to interact with people. Honestly, because it's a fair thing. It's not an everyday project. Some random kid shows up with a camera. He's like, "Let me walk around your building and take some pictures." Like that's it gives some people pause. So learning how to make contact and really just develop those interpersonal skills was very nice. So yeah.
Plus, you're pretty sketchy looking.
I know. I debated shaving today. I decided against it. So.
But you bring up a really good point as preservationists. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, and you, I'm sure, have both experienced the same thing. You're out on the street, you've got your camera pointed at somebody's house. They're going to come out all defensive, like, "What are you doing?" And usually it's they think you're the tax man or something.
Right.
The man.
Yeah.
The man. Just the man.
The man. They're in trouble or something.
The non-gender specific, the man.
Yeah.
It's a very inclusive term.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk to UVM and do an interior finishes elements tour. I think that would be
cool. I've done work in
fabulous.
there, so I've done some of the woodwork restoration in there.
Well, I haven't seen it.
Yes,
I want to tour.
Just walk right up and go
fantastic.
in.
Really
Yeah.
And then I was going to say off camera, but I started my career as a decorative painter in the city. So when I saw faux bois and faux finishes, I was like, "Where's that gosh darn portfolio? I want to show it to Will. Next time I get him into the shop, Saturday."
Saturday. I'll be there.
Yeah, good. Well, it's pretty cool. It sounds like a great experience. You've still got 13, 14 more.
Yeah.
Yep. So you'll be doing that. You're working down in Montpelier, right? No. You're working down in
West Haven.
West Haven. Yeah.
Yep.
For where? What's that about?
It's a condition assessment for the Gallic Farmstead. It's a 1,600-acre property, and I had no idea, but it is apparently the only place in the state of Vermont that has lizards and rattlesnakes.
Native?
Native and still existing. So it's honestly been great. For the past couple of Thursdays, I've gone down there with my friend Lucas, and they set us up on one of those side-by-side Polaris things. We just get to bomb around a big old property, look at barns in the field, and dodge the snakes and rat poop and everything else.
I think there is one of the snakes is protected, right?
Yes.
And I live in the New North End here, and I was walking my dog, and I saw a dead little teeny weeny one, like this big. Yeah.
Of what? What kind of snake?
The little baby rattlesnake, the Vermont rattlesnake. I forget its exact name.
Not up here.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
They don't exist up here.
It did.
No.
Yes. Yep. I got to report it and everything.
It had the rattle? Do you still have it?
No, it decomposed after a while. It's gone now. Yeah. I can show you the picture later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'm skeptical, because it's weird to me from New York up all the way up through the
That's why he was
Adirondacks.
dead, because they're not around here.
Adirondacks are chock-a-block full of copperheads and rattlesnakes all the way up to the top, and Vermont is not. It's a rarity, if not never.
Believes anything I say, but yeah.
No, well, I don't believe a lot of things you say, but not everything you say.
Anyway, it was
a lot of what I say
to
either,
have you here with us and sharing this fabulous research. And I would love to see more pictures and hear more about it. So
Absolutely.
I may have to talk to you.
Yeah,
about
we'll
it
have to have you
afterwards.
back on so you can fill us in as you're getting further along and do more stuff.
Or maybe
so.
do a talk or
It
something.
sounds like a great experience. You really embraced it. A lot of people smarten up and run away from historic preservation when they.
No, and as a student, it's really cool to get a project that you can really sink your teeth into, and that gives you some really cool stuff to work with. And actually discovering and learning along the way. So
Right,
Yeah.
and have a
Yeah.
lot of autonomy while you do it, which is
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
trust is good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, yeah, and thanks for all you're doing. You know, we need more preservationists, and we need to.
We do.
We'll talk off.
We need more
camera
money for
about-
preservation,
and we
too.
need more tradespeople too. So we'll talk off camera about that. Bob just emailed me tonight. So
Oh, yeah?
yeah. So we're pushing for that. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Lisa. for
You're
helping
welcome.
Throw this together. Will,
Always.
thank you, and thank you for Saturday ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And happy birthday again.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
He didn't
And
bring you a
thanks
present.
everybody else for tuning in to CCTV Live at 525 in Preservation Burlington. More information on your Burlington history, our tours and events, or to get the marker for your historic house, go to preservationburlington.org, and we'll see you next month. And we'll see you in November at Champlain College, and we'll see you in October at
our
Lakeview
annual awards
Cemetery. And the
event.
annual awards coming
yes,
up.
we almost forgot that one.
Oh my goodness.
October 18th.
October
6
18th, 6
p.m.-ish.
p.m. at Main Street Landing, and Bob Blanchard talking about his new book, Lost Burlington,
Yeah, I'm
which
really excited for that.
is not as depressing as I thought it was going to be because there's still so much in Burlington. And yeah, he puts a positive spin on the stuff we did lose so we can learn from it.
Hopefully we'll learn from it.
Hopefully we'll learn from
Yeah.
it. Thanks everybody, and have a great night.